Okay, so we want to get started and we want to welcome you to our Facebook Live on positivity. And this couldn't happen at a better time. But first, I want to tell you who we have on here. I want to introduce you to our special guest is Tannis Dyrland. Tannis is from the West. She's from Calgary. And she's a podcaster. She's a blogger. She's been in the travel business for a while. Tannis, why don't you share one thing about yourself that maybe isn't travel related?
I'm a retired psychologist.
Wow.
I left that field to do this.
And yeah, how does psychology and travel go together?
Hand in hand, especially this past year. It has saved my soul, that's for sure.
Yeah, I can just imagine.
Yeah.
And we also have, of course, if you've been on any of our MP calls, you recognize Brenda Slater. Brenda's from Ontario. And Brenda actually and I, we live probably like half an hour away from each other, but we have never met because of COVID. And we only met on through Facebook. And so we've never actually met in person. But Brenda lives on the beautiful shores of Georgian Bay. And Brenda, share one thing with us that's not travel related. What's something that people probably wouldn't know about you?
Every year for the month of, most of the month of November and half the month of December, I decorate 50 Christmas trees that are auctioned off for the Rotary Club of Pettatanguishene. Haven't done it this year, of course, and not sure what's happening next year, but yeah, 50 trees. So I spend an entire year gathering things to put on trees and coming up with ideas, and we sell sponsorships, and then we raffle the trees off and we raise money for the Rotary Club. Very fun.
Where do you come up with ideas for 50 trees?
Okay.
That's a good question. Usually Pinterest is my friend. I did the last 2 years ago, I did an invisible tree, so the balls are hanging from a wire. Kind of cool. It was actually posted on Travel Pulse's thing over Christmas. And I've done several gowns with corsets and big skirts, which are fun too. So you never know, snowmen and just fun stuff.
Wow.
I'm an artist, so it kind of comes naturally.
Do you ever run out of ideas for your own tree in your house?
No.
I have a hard enough time trying to, well, I don't have to worry about it because I decorated it the same way of every year. But when I see other trees, I'm kind of inspired to copy theirs, but I could never come up with a new idea, I don't think.
I probably have enough decorations for maybe 4 different themed trees, and they kind of get interspersed. So.
And we also have Nancy Wilson. Nancy's from Ottawa, so she's from our nation's capital. So she's been in a really great place to be during COVID as we've been meeting with MPs. I think they're always impressed with her whenever she says she's from Ottawa. So Nancy, what's something that we don't know about you, something that's not travel related?
Yeah, and if I can just say, being in Ottawa, we actually had one MP that had tried to toy with the idea of setting up a meeting for a press release with me in person. So if we ever can get back together, then yeah, you might see me with the MPs in person. So that's great. Nothing so exciting as Tannis or Brenda have, but I will just say I am the mother to 3 boys. They are, my oldest is 22 and technically should be maybe moving out of the house soon, but we don't see that in any time in the near future. So with a 22-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 15-year-old, my husband and my recently acquired dog last summer, we now are, I have 5 other beings in this house, human and dog, and they're all male except for me. So it can be challenging. A lot of them don't understand if I have emotional days. They don't really get it, but they do their best to deal with me, and yeah, that's my fun.
I can sympathize with you, Nancy. I have 3 boys as well. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Judith Coates, and I live in Ontario as well, in Orillia. And I have 4 adult children. So I have 3 boys, and then I had a girl after the 3 boys. So I didn't have to, and I had a female dog too. So it was great to share hormones with my female daughter, with my daughter. So, but I think it's made her stronger growing up with 3 older brothers. Definitely she can hold her own, and it's really kind of neat to see. But I sure love my boys. They've been out of the house for a while, but something that you might not know about me is that I play piano and keyboards, and our family, my husband and I and our kids are all actually very musical. And back in the day, back probably like 15, 20 years ago, we played and sang in a music group that traveled across Ontario. It was a gospel group, and we spent our summers just traveling around in a motorhome with some other band members who weren't part of our family, and really had great times doing that. So I've kind of kept up the piano. I love to sit down. I have a nice baby grand piano in my dining room. I don't have a dining room table because there's no room for it, but I do have that beautiful baby grand, and love to just sit down and play it. So we want to jump into our topic, but before we do, we thought it might be a good idea to get the elephant out of the room and just mention very quickly about the announcement that Transat handed down today about all their product being canceled out of Toronto, not just like next week, but starting tomorrow. So Tannis, you've already gone through this.
We did. We went through this last year, and it happened very quickly and with what appeared as no remorse on their end. And it was a heck of a mess. We're still cleaning it up. So my heart this morning, when I saw that, my heart broke for all of you in the East. I honestly didn't think Transat would do that in the East. I was kind of surprised, but I guess we never really know what's going to happen. But my heart certainly went out to all of you out East.
Thanks. And how about you, Brenda, Nancy? What were your feelings this morning?
Well, my last remaining group that were supposed to travel with Transat in April, actually about 2 months ago, I convinced them that they should change over to 2022, and they agreed. So thankfully, I don't have anybody pending that isn't already in a future travel credit status. So just one less carrier that can take my bum down to Keokoko when I could get there. So.
Yeah. Well, as you've seen kind of the chatter about on Facebook, you know, all the groups are talking about it. And what were your reactions, Nancy? Or were some of the things you heard?
I can't say I was terribly shocked. I think a lot of us kind of saw this coming. There was some talk of Air Canada Vacations being in the same boat. So we shouldn't be surprised to hear any more of this happening. And my only, my heart really went out, not just to the agents that are going through, like Tannis said, and knowing what they're about to go through, but to the employees at Transat, because you know, that's our fellow travel industry representatives that are now facing layoffs, furloughs, unemployment. You know, it's a sad day for our industry. And, you know, on one hand, it raises so many questions of what the future is going to look like of travel. But on the other hand, as I always try to find something positive in it, I do feel that this is going to drive the bus in the sense that we now have some more ammunition, tools in our toolbox, shall I say, that we're going to be able to go back to our MP meetings with, not only the MPs that we have meetings with in the future, but for the ones that we have already met with, to go back to and say, we need some decisions made yesterday. So
yeah.
Edith, we have a couple of questions, and one was, is there another link besides the Travel Pulse? I haven't seen anything yet, but I'm pretty sure that Transat will be putting something up on their site soon. From what I gather, they were saying this morning from the article, if you hadn't read it, somebody else had asked what was happening with the refunds and how was that working. If you had paid for your trip using a future travel credit, it goes back to a future travel credit. If you paid for your trip using cash or credit card, it will be refunded back to cash or credit card, or that's at least what they're saying right now.
Yeah, and if you're not on the Transat agent site on Facebook, I would advise going over there if you have some Transat files, because there's a lot of buzz over there and you'll get your questions answered probably quicker than ever on there. So yeah,
I think
okay,
you're at a bit of a benefit, because for us, they pulled out of the West entirely permanently. And it seems like there is a little glimmer of hope for you the end of April. They seem like it's kind of a short window. I don't know, but for us, there was no future travel credits. There was nothing. It was just done. So my hope is that you guys have a little bit of a light at the end of that tunnel.
Yeah, let's hope.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I just thought what we really wanted to do today was talk about what are the positive things in our industry, because there has been so much, especially since after Christmas. Seems like we've been bombarded by negative with the announcement about the new requirement for PCR testing, and then Prime Minister Trudeau coming on with all of his announcements saying some restrictions are coming, worse restrictions are coming, and yet never really saying what they're going to be. And there's a lot of speculation about what those restrictions will be. It really has been putting a lot of fear into people, and not just our clients, but into travel advisors. And we've just noticed a climate of discouragement and fear and negativity within a lot of groups. And so we just thought, let's talk about some things that are positive instead of dwelling on the negative, because there are some positive things that have been happening. So as you looked back over the last 10 to 11 months, what are some positive things that you have seen coming out of this really stressful time? Who wants to go first? Tannis, you go first, yeah.
I know for me, it shifted my business focus tremendously. I used to have a lot of contractors that worked for me on different projects. So I was handling my social media, handling production, different things, even with the travel show, the podcast show, having producers. And as my income dwindled, I couldn't afford to keep these people on board. And so I had to let all of them go and learn the tools myself. And I don't mean to demean what they do. I could never do it justice, but I've spent the past 6 months, I have a philosophy. I wake up in the morning and I spend the first 30 minutes of my day learning something new. And so that could be a YouTube tutorial, doing a course, whatever it is. There's a lot of free education available online. And I've essentially taught myself production, videography, social media, yeah, like all of these avenues. And I've been able to do it myself for no cost. And I'm kind of proud actually of that. But I definitely have people in my circle still that I really created a community where people lean on each other and share their knowledge and share their expertise. And I don't have a bill to pay for it, which is a beautiful thing. So, yeah.
So it's been a real opportunity for you to increase your knowledge base.
Well, absolutely. And moving forward, what a money saver that will be. It's because, of course, I'm like the rest of the people in this industry, we don't necessarily have income. And so I couldn't have afforded. And if I was reliant on these contractors, I don't know what would have happened. I would have fallen off the mark. And I've actually been able to really set some numbers with what I've been doing. So I'm actually quite proud of what I've learned and been able to do for my business. I don't know, had this happened, would I have been pushed to do that? So take your 30 minutes every day and teach yourself something new. I keep bugging Brenda to do that.
That is a really, really great mantra to have, because, and Tannis challenged us with that last week, and it's been good. I've done the same. I've taken you up on your challenge, and I think it's been really helpful too. So Tanya wants to know, what's the name of your travel podcast?
Travel with Tannis. It's on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Podcasts.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Nancy, Anna loves your t-shirt.
I think it's important that we send that positive message out on our positivity today. And I think it's so important with everything that we've been going through, not travel shaming only, but mass, you know, everything that is going on in this world in the last 10 months is, if I can take one good thing out of it, is we really need to be sensitive to everybody and their individual situations and what they're going through. So it just worked out that I had this. I saw it at just a bit before Christmas, and I was like, I have to have that. It's really important right now. So
Yeah.
And maybe I'll just use that now that I'm speaking to just say what I've learned from this. And I guess the most important one for me is that the true value of what we as agents bring to our clients. You know, none of us even probably knew how much we could do before this, you know, even though we knew that we were heroes to our clients and they never knew it. I don't think we ever knew that we could go to the level that we have for our clients and done what we've done for them. So we've learned that about ourselves, that we have the ability to truly save the day, heroes in our own right, and that we have to value that now. And we need to make it more clear to our clients going forward, that value that we do bring, that we are worth it. You know, I think we all were there before saying, oh, well, this is why you should book with a travel agent. But we really have ammunition now to really sell the value that we have. And then, of course, that questions the fees that we're going to go forward with and whatnot. And it's given me a lot of time not only to think about that or what I want my business to be in the future, you know, how am I going to change it? I was able to take advantage of this downtime and brand my business. So, you know, that's a very exciting challenge that I took on that I never had the time to even think about before we were gifted this downtime. So that's my positivity.
Good. Thanks, Nancy. Brenda, before you share, just Kristen, we have Kristen Hugendorm monitoring our comments because we can't, I don't know if you've ever done a Facebook Live before on Zoom, but we're on Zoom and you're on Facebook and there's about a 5 to 10 second delay. So what we're seeing some comments and we can't look at the Facebook screen because it's really confusing because we're seeing us like 10 seconds ago. So Kristen's monitoring them for us, and she sent out over a comment saying that there was many comments on the Facebook page about how ACETA, our association, has kept them positive and focused. So thank you for those comments. It's we've really enjoyed getting to know many of you and staying positive and focused with you. So Brenda, what's something positive that you felt has come out of the last 10 or 11 months?
Well, I mean, there's a lot, but probably the most important one for me is I've learned to set some better boundaries around my work time, downtime. Previously, and up until probably the last few weeks, I've been spending a lot of time online, moderating the group and trying to keep everybody forward thinking, especially around social media with Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And it's essential for me to have that time to walk away from that heavy negative doomsday kind of stuff that's happening out there, especially in the social media, and being able to just do something else like paint or plan my garden or figuring out what I'm going to do on a Christmas tree next year, or spending my 30 minutes in the morning learning something new. So so this is my big takeaway from Tannis, but it's tough, you know. The amount of people who are spending so much time finding all the bad, it's gonna, you know, the doom, that whole heaviness, it's just, it's taking a toll on me personally. So I just had to walk away. So 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. I'm ACETAs, I'm the groups, I'm my clients, I'm there for you, but outside of those hours right now are no longer clients, and not so much of the trying to keep people pointed in a forward movement. So yeah, that's pretty much, that's the most important, but also these chicas. So my biggest takeaway from this is, being a home-based agent, we sit in our little cocoons all day long, and we don't have any interaction really with people on an ongoing basis anymore. And having this group of brilliant women and loving and caring people that we talk to on a daily basis through our groups and to each other, I really don't know where I'd be without them, because it's we've been sort of together, the good, the bad, the ugly. And somehow we're able to keep each other grounded and level-headed and moving forward. Same thing. So I want to thank our posse. We have an A team, and of course my girls. But I want to thank the group, because I don't know right now where I'd be without it. So it's awesome.
Yeah, as I said at the beginning, like Brenda and Nancy and I have not, even though we're all in Ontario, we've never met one another in person, because we only met in June on Facebook. And so we're looking forward to the day when we can meet in person, but it's been like for me a real blessing to have the two of them. And as Brenda said, like the three of us are totally different personalities, but I think we're a really great balance of personalities. So we kind of balance one another and spell one another off. And because we've been able to work together as a team, and a team not just with the three of us, but with so many of you, we've been able to really accomplish a lot. And I think that is what maybe has spoken to me the most over the last 8 to 10 months, is that one person, you can feel as one person that you can't do anything. And yet one person could do a lot. And when you link arms with other one persons, you can do so much. And so we've been experiencing that, we've been living that. And it's really given me a lot more self-confidence and a lot more positivity, I think, just to know that one person can make a difference. And so
I think the very first person I usually talk to in the morning is either you or Nancy, and you're also the last people I usually talk to. So it's kind of funny. It's, you know, my husband stops asking me who I'm talking to now.
Yeah.
Usually I'm like, Sita.
So Wendy was asking how did we start the group, and really it was very organic. The owner of the Travel Agent Next Door kept pushing at us and pushing at us, get a meeting with your MP, write him, or her, and get a meeting. And so I got a meeting with my MP, Bruce Stanton, who's at Simcoe North, and he happens to be Brenda's MP. And I actually just put a thing out on Facebook in some of the groups, and I just said, hey, I'm meeting with my MP on this date. Anybody want to join me? I'd really like some other people from the riding. And so we had a few others from the riding, and then I think a couple of other people who weren't in the riding but in the area. Met with Bruce, and Nancy was on the call as well. And so afterwards, Brenda and I got talking and just saying, you know, we need to get more people doing this, because it was a really positive meeting. And so we just kind of got our heads together. We invited Nancy to join us, and we just kind of ran with that. Right after that, we started running. And in June and July, August, we weren't running as quickly, but come the fall, oh my goodness, it's been like a marathon, especially once we hit October, November, because of the commission recalls. It became so urgent that we speak with MPs, and we were starting to mobilize more and more of you to get your MPs on board and to get meetings. And so as you got meetings, we would facilitate the meeting and go from there. And let me just put one little plug in really quickly, and we need to get more meetings. And so if you haven't reached out to your MP yet, this is a really great time, especially with what's happened with Transat. Great time to say, we urgently, urgently need to meet with you. And once you get the meeting time set up, we'll go with it. We'll facilitate it for you. We've got a great presentation deck that we go through, and then we invite the MP to ask questions or give suggestions, and then we ask them for some specific things. And so if you haven't had a meeting yet, it's really important that you do so. But if you've already had a meeting, it's time to have a follow-up meeting, because so much has happened since we met with your MP. So you need to reach out, and now you've got that open door because you already had the meeting. So phone your MP's office, speak to their assistant, and just say, I need to have a 15-minute follow-up meeting. It's really urgent. And I think that because you've got that open door, they will assent to having a meeting with you.
Judith, the other day we had touched on this a bit, and in speaking on the point of positivity today, as an outsider looking in on what you're doing and what you women have been doing for the past however many months, I don't think that there's enough information for the rest of us as to what has come out of you lobbying these MPs. How many have you spoke with? And I don't think that there's enough information as to the good things that have come out of that. And if you have a moment, if you don't mind, sorry, I don't mean to take your mic, but if you could, I think just clarifying for some other people in the industry, what are these meetings doing and what kind of headway have you made?
Yeah, that was such a great question. I was so glad that you asked that the other day, because it got us thinking that really we do need to actually, we're going to jump in on the group and do a separate Facebook Live about that. But quickly, Brenda or Nancy, why don't you just, you can maybe give a recap of how many MPs we've met with and maybe how many have done questions in the House of Commons for us?
I'll start with numbers. Last time I looked, I think it was about 135, but I know that that was about a week ago. When we first started, it was a really tough sell to get a hold of any MP at all. But now we're at a point where we get a meeting with one MP and the rest of them pile on. So we had a meeting earlier last week, and there were 13 Liberal MPs on one call because we asked for a meeting with one MP. So, and a few days before that, we had 5 Liberal MPs from Newfoundland and Labrador all on one call. We're kind of making a lot of headway in the back rooms of, in the hallways of the House of Commons, which is not an easy thing to do when you're not a lobbyist and you're not getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars by contracts by large corporations. We are, after all, 3 chicas that run travel businesses out of our homes. So it's no small feat. But the good thing is, from that, the MPs are all talking to each other. So we haven't met them. They're already aware of who we are. And they are sort of aware of what it is we're facing. So it's getting easier and easier for us to get in to the House of Commons and to the MPs and to get on the floor of the House of Commons to have our issues brought in front of the entire House of Commons and of course on television, and that goes wherever it goes. So Nancy, you're it.
So yeah, in looking at how many I've talked, I don't even think I have the official number, but I know that off the top of my head, I can say we've at least had 6 MPs speak either in the House of Commons or during question period. They brought up the issue of commission recalls, but they're also very supportive of us. And one thing that, you know, people that are watching now live or may see this recorded after the fact will ask, why don't we record our Zoom meetings with the MPs? And I think we talked about this with Tannis when she was asking us questions, is that we leave it so that if we record it, they have a different, they're putting a different face forward when they have that meeting with us. Without recording, we're having a conversation with them, albeit a professional conversation, but we are having a one-on-one conversation where they can be very, very upfront. They can give us advice as to what we should be doing. They can give us suggestions, and we really leave it open to them to help us. You know, what do you say we should do? What can we do better? And we've gotten tremendous feedback, not only that what we're doing is exactly what we should be doing, but we had, in fact, one MVP, MP out west, I believe it was BC, and he, after Judith finished the presentation, he said, this is the best presentation I've ever witnessed from a lobbying group. And we just kind of laughed because we're not even lobbyists. So taking that as a huge pat on the back for us, we were so blown away by the fact that we are being compared to people who, as Brenda mentioned, professionally are paid to do this. And we're doing it on our own time because of our love for the industry and our desperate need to see all of us protected going forward. So, you know, so much has come out of it. Some MPs are more helpful than others, but really, as Brenda said, where we used to tell them and their jaws dropped, they didn't know what we've been doing. Now they say, oh yeah, I've heard about that. I've heard about that. They know who we are. They know what we're doing. Some of them have even seen our presentation before we present it. So if there's any question out there as to whether this is doing any good, please know that it is making a difference, and everything you can do to help support us in that. And just to say to that, you know, we pat ourselves on the back for doing it, but we couldn't do it without the support of everyone that has jumped on board, supported us by getting a meeting with their MP, coming on the calls, countless number of calls, and listening to our presentation over and over again. Yeah. And just having that support has meant the world to us. And we feel, as much as you guys say, like, thanks to us for doing it, we also have to say thank you for being there for us, because we couldn't have done it without your support.
Yeah, and that brings up a really good point. Even if you're not comfortable presenting in front of your MP, you don't have to. That's what we do. But if you want to see what it looks like or how it happens, all you need to do is put your email address underneath one of the posts and say, yes, I'd like to join you, and just show up. You don't have to say anything. You actually can't, because you're muted for the entire presentation. But you know, it gives you a really good idea of what we're saying and how we're doing it, and for just briefly sort of what we've accomplished. The CRB got extended twice. Early on, we started advocating for them to start looking at the EI, because the infrastructure that model was already in place. So to transition the CERB to the CRB. So we were quite pushy about that at the beginning. And of course, extensions of support. And since September, we've been on them pretty hard about commission recalls, about testing, about rapid testing, having more or approving more rapid tests. So we're kind of throwing as much ideas, or as many ideas as we can come up with that will give them forward motion, because it's not enough just to complain and talk about how horrid everything is. You have to actually belly on up to the bar with a plan or ideas of what can be done. And that's been sort of the center of all of our process, trying to come to the table with ideas and ask for a seat at the table with them to share ideas with them, and various caucus meetings we've been involved with. So we've got another one coming up next Monday, and hopefully as many of you can come as possible. We have, I think there were about 6 different advisors, policy advisors, executive assistants for 3 different ministries, transportation, science and technology, and health, I believe, are the 3. I'll have to look it up to see who belongs to whom, but that's going to be an interesting meeting.
Small business. Small business is the other one.
Small business, yeah. So that's going to be a big one, and we would love you to just join us and come and see, because it helps us.
And that one will be definitely focused on how the travel advisor community is slipping through the cracks when it comes to programs, especially the loan programs that the government has rolled out. This new HASCAP loan, it's, you know, pretty much 99% of this will not qualify. For the SEBA loan, most of us have not been able to qualify, and they think they're doing a great job in supporting small businesses, but they have overlooked the small businesses who are sole proprietors and home-based. And so that's what our conversation is going to be about next week. So we hope you can join us. And also tomorrow, we're having it'll be an interesting meeting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock EST, Eastern Standard Time, with Xavier Barcelou-Dumont, I think his name is, Duval. And he's our first Bloc Quebecois MP to meet with. So we're excited about that. And so that, if you want to join us, just jump on the post that's in the group, and we'd love to have you there. And if you're thinking that, well, my presence doesn't really make a difference, just like Nancy said, it really, really does make a difference, because the more faces that they can see on the screen, I think it really makes more of an impact on them. If they were just talking to the three of us and we said we represent other travel advisors, I don't think it would be impactful. But when they see other faces, it really does make a difference to them. So before we move on actually to the next question, I just wanted to let you know, Brenda, Charlene really likes your tattoo. Do you want to show your tattoo and let us know what it is for those who can't see?
It's a heart with an airplane, and it's actually my very first trip. I was 13 years old. I did a school exchange from Toronto to, I spent a month in England, and my girlfriend, at my girlfriend Judy's house, who's still my girlfriend, and we met in New York City 2 years ago, and on a Sunday night, because we had nothing better to do, Judy and myself and our two daughters all went and got the same tattoo, because we all love to travel. Her daughter is actually a flight attendant for one of the airlines in England. So it's a we're in this together tattoo. We spent a lot of time in planes going back and forth to see each other since we were 13 years old. So yeah.
Well, that's neat. Nabila wants to know if we have another letter formatted to the MP to follow up if we've already met with our MP. And yes, Nabila, we do. So go up into the announcements section of the group after we're done here. And there's about 3 or 4 announcements. You might have to click on see more. And there's a follow-up letter there. Now you will have to update it if you want to put something in there about Transat. But just revise it so that it sounds like it's coming from you. It doesn't sound so much like a form letter. And just copy that to send to your MP for a follow-up. And Mona wants to know if we still want agents from any region, because it sometimes looks like we're looking for agents only in the riding or the province of the MP. So that really depends on the MP. Some MPs want, you know, they're open to anybody coming to the meeting. There are others that say, no, it has to be some only constituents. So usually we'll specify if it's only people in the riding. But if we don't specify that, join us. We'd love to have you. Come on board. Yeah. So
it's most of the time they don't know. They would have no way of knowing where you were from anyway. So we always love the support. So.
That's right. So before we move on to the next question, I just wanted to say one thing that's been really positive, I think, is that if it wasn't for this shutdown, we would never get in the door of so many MPs' offices across the country, because we've been able to use this tool called Zoom. And I was a little bit familiar with Zoom before. I'd used it a fair amount of time, but not to the extent of what we've been doing over the last 8 months. And so it has been such a great tool to have, to just be able to talk face to face with MPs. And even like a couple of weeks ago, we met with John Broussard, Charlene's MP, and in Barrie, and he, you know, Nancy alluded to this, that he just broke down. He was very emotional. And even though we were across a screen, we could just feel that. It was like pulsing, that passion and that emotion. And we really felt like it was like we were in the same room with him. So if it were not for the shutdown and the having to deal with Zoom, we wouldn't, you know, we might meet with like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 in our area. And it would be, I think, harder for you on the other side of the screen for you to go to your MP. Some of you have said this to us, that you don't feel comfortable knocking on their door and saying, can I have a meeting with you? But because we've been able to do this on Zoom, we've just been able to reach so many. So that is a huge, huge positive that we've encountered. But the next thing,
everybody should get the same tattoo.
Yeah, that's good. Well, it's certainly very relevant for us right now, that's for sure. So the next question that we wanted to kind of look at was, as you're looking forward to when travel is going to reopen, what are some of the positive things that you're going to implement in your business as you begin to start looking at business again? Tannis, do you want to maybe start
Sure.
off?
What I've been working on for the past couple of months is a way to protect my associates that work for me in my branch and myself, sort of on our own commission protection moving forward. So what does that look like and how to implement it and be transparent about it, but also to secure our income. That's going to be, I think that for most travel agents moving forward, a way to protect our time. We've realized that nobody is protecting our paychecks. So we are going to have to figure out a way to do that for ourselves. And I think I've come up with a pretty good solution. I've just got to kind of get it together and finalize, but I feel really good about it. And I just think people are going to have to get comfortable with charging service fees, but be transparent. And I also think though, with like people hear the word service fee and they kind of hold their breath, but I also think that the general mass of people that deal with travel agents are going to have a different understanding moving forward as to why we're doing what we're doing, even just in a consideration for the job that we do. So yeah, I'm just trying to very diplomatically create something that is easy to carry out.
Good idea. How about you, Nancy?
I was just going to say, if I can just piggyback off of what Tannis said, I mean, I have to say I'm probably the biggest anti-fee proponent out there, because I've seen, like, I remember being in the industry when fees were introduced, and I thought nobody's going to pay fees because they can book it themselves, and I don't want to take that away. And when I kind of got back into this 4 years ago, I said that I thought, you know what, my argument is going to be, you can pay the same price to book it online as with me, and I'm going to give you so much more. So that was my way to get people to book with me, and it did work. So I stuck with that, and I always felt like I'm getting paid and I'm okay with giving that extra service and that being what I do. But now that we've lived through a time when, as you said, we're not being paid for what we do anymore, we have to protect ourselves. And the ammunition we've been given from this crisis is that they don't have our back, and until those contracts are revised, we're going to have to protect ourselves, because we can't keep doing the work for free. You know, we are trying to make a living here, and I think the majority of the clients that we have are going to appreciate that. I think we need to be a little more upfront with how we're paid and what happens, and I won't hesitate to tell them that, you know, when I did all the work I did in March, I wasn't getting paid for it, and they tried to take my money back. That still remains to be seen, right? We don't know what's going to end up happening with all of this, but depending how it turns out, or not depending how it turns out, I think that the argument will be, I have no guarantees and I have to protect myself, and what I'm going to give you is going to make it well worth your while. And I can relate it similarly to a booking that I tried to make for somebody who had seen the rate on Costco, and the Costco rate was better than what I could offer. Now, with doing a little digging, it turned out that it wasn't an all-inclusive rate. But even still, at the end of the day, with the argument, I went back to her and I said, I can't help you. I can't get you that rate. And if you need to book it with Costco, you will, but I will tell you, they won't be there to help you if you have any issues with the flight down. If you're in the airport and you need assistance, I'm there for you. They won't be there for you. These are all the things that I will do to help you that you won't get if you book it with Costco. But if you're just going for price, then, you know, go book with Costco. I understand, but I can't do that. And they booked with me. So I know that I had the ability to stand up and say bluntly what they were going to get versus what they get with me. And now I'm just gonna have to fine tune that with fees and make people understand. And that's something that we have no choice but to face going forward, I think.
Not everybody's your customer either, right?
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah, we can't serve everybody. That's
No,
true.
and that's
There's
okay.
There's a lot of comments coming in.
Are going to be the customers that we want to deal with.
Right.
Yeah. There's a lot of comments that are coming in, just talking about fees, that people are saying, I call them professional fees because that's what I'm doing. I'm giving them my professional expertise. And so that's something that you do need to think about as you look at charging fees. What are you going to call it? And I think that's something that we were very intentional about even when we started the group. When we decided on a name for the group, we wanted to call ourselves travel advisors as opposed to travel agents, because agent has the connotation that you are working for the airline or you are the agent of the travel company. And we need to shift that focus away from them. We don't work for the travel companies. We don't work for the tour operators or the airlines. We work for our clients. And so in the same way, we need to talk about our fees to let our clients know that we are charging the fee because we are working for them. Brenda, what about you in your business? What are you going to be doing differently to move it forward?
I have actually always charged fees for airline tickets, but I don't tend to sell a lot of airline tickets. I'm more of a higher end. I act as a travel concierge. So I have a core group of clients that I've been dealing with for a very long time. And some of them are all-inclusive people, but most of them aren't. I do sort of shy away from the wedding group because it is a job. But I am starting to do more groups that I escort, which is kind of fun. I actually had one that was supposed to go in May on a scenic river cruise, and it's now been changed to May of 2022, which is fine. But I am pretty convinced that I'm going to be selling more groups, specifically river cruise, small ship cruise groups, and that's sort of where my focus is going to be. I have noticed, in case anybody missed it, that a lot of the cruise lines have been very, very generous, and not only did they pay out commission on canceled files, but they also paid out commission on, they also will pay commission on the future cruise booking as well. So instead of getting paid or not getting paid at all, you're getting paid twice, which I find to be very interesting concept for me moving forward. So I know that at this point in my life, my other half will not be traveling with me as much as I wish he was, and he is adverse to cruises. So, and I quite like them. So it's gonna something moving forward. Definitely something moving forward is more cruising. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of us will be changing the products we sell and also the suppliers that we sell with. We need to be really careful, and we know we have information now, knowing how we've been treated and how we've been handled and how the customer service has been, how even just the speed with which we've gotten answers or refunds or vouchers. And so we need to use that as we move forward and decide who we are going to deal with. And I think suppliers need to understand that we're not going to take this sitting down or lying down, that we will go with and we will book with the suppliers who treated us the best. And already I think there's been some suppliers that have been very proactive and have been coming out with new ways to pay commission on deposits and to promise commission protection and things like that. So I think they're being very proactive, and hopefully other suppliers are going to follow suit when things open up. There's been an awful lot of client comments about service fees. And so I think what we will do is we will have another Facebook Live just on service fees. So we'll save all these comments, and it'll be really great to have a good discussion about fees as we move forward. But here's something that I thought was really interesting. Some of you subscribe to Sandra McLemore and her marketing group, and I get her emails. I'm not in her marketing group, but one of the things that she said was, while many people struggled financially in 2020, not everyone did. In fact, many people saved money by not traveling and not going out, or having smaller celebrations and not doing big things on the holidays. And many people worked in industries that boomed and made more money in 2020 than they ever have. And we know that's true. So every single person on your email list, and then even ones you haven't found yet, wants to travel, and they have dreams about where they want to go. So it's up to your clients as far as when they will travel. So keep that in mind, that even though we've been struggling in our industry and we have no money, there are a lot of people out there. So when travel opens up, there's going to be a lot of people. There's going to be huge demand for some really great ticket items on their bucket list. And I think a lot of people now they've decided what their priorities are. And so they've had time to think about, okay, I've been putting that trip off for so long, I want to go. That's the next thing I want to do. And that's one of the things that I've been talking to my clients about is, when things open up, where is it that you're going to want to go? So be ready, because once travel opens, we are going to be deluged with people wanting to travel. And I think that's going to make it even easier. When we talk about fees, it's going to make it easier for us to charge fees. So
somebody was asking, sorry to interrupt, Judith, somebody was asking about why it's only 1% are being able to take advantage of these loan and grant programs. We were in a meeting yesterday. We were actually invited to a meeting yesterday by the Minister of Small Business Office about the HASCAP loan. And after that meeting, so it was just explaining to us about the HASCAP loan, and we were part of a larger group. And it was interesting that we were invited, because we were all very skeptical about whether or not we would actually be able to apply for any of this loan. And the short answer is we can't. And then afterwards, had many exchange with the Office of Small Business, and which resulted in a meeting next Monday. And they were like, well, what about this? And what about that? And what about the other thing? But the bottom line is we don't have corporate bank accounts. Most of us are not incorporated. We don't have the non-deferrable expenses required to be able to take advantage of any of these programs. And the last thing is with HASCAP in particular, you have to have been able to apply for and get the wage subsidy program or the rent subsidy program. So as independent advisors, they haven't sort of been able to capture anything that would apply specifically to us for any kind of relief. So there you go.
And the CRB, the CRB is designed to help us put food on our table and pay our rent, and that is not, it's not meant to pay our business expenses. And so as independent contractors, we have business expenses still. We still have any professional fees that we pay, or insurance fees and things like that. So our expenses have not gone down if we want to keep our business. So those are some things that we really need help with. So that's why we need to jump on and
one of the comments yesterday that this particular she's the assistant deputy minister for small business, said to me, well, at least you're being able to get CRB. And I kind of went,
yeah.
Okay. So yes, we are very grateful. We are very grateful that we're at least able to get CRB, but you need to understand that some of us are used to six-figure income. So living off of $24,000 a year and having to pay back commissions on recall is a little bit over the top. So I kept my potty mouth away. So
you can do it, Brenda.
I know, I don't like to, but but that was, and that's sort of the thought process that we hear from them. Is like, well, what do you mean you can't get these programs? You don't get SIBA? Why don't you get SIBA? Well, at least you're getting CRB. They're there. Go away. This is not, we're not going away. We're not going away. So we need you guys to fight with us.
Yeah, we sure do.
Forward. Yeah.
Kathy just made a comment about bucket list travel, and I think that's a really important thing to think too. is that was one of the things I was interviewed in November or December asking, how did I think things were going to change going forward? And I said, I think people are going to look at those extreme trips that they were saying maybe someday, and they're going to say maybe that someday is now, because what if there's another pandemic? What if there's something else that's going to hold me up from going? So absolutely, Kathy, I think it's a great idea that we start marketing those, you know, right out of the gate when this starts to wind down. Is what have you wanted to do that you didn't know if you'd ever be able to do? Is now the time to start planning that? It doesn't have to be next week, but it could be next year or in 2 years. And we should start planning that, because bucket list trips aren't something that you just do. Those need planning and preparation. So I think that's a
I'm
great.
going to Sri Lanka and the Maldives in October. So I'm in, lead by do. Somebody was asking about CRB, and it ends soon. So if you would like to join us on one of our calls, you will see very quickly that that is one of the very first things that we address, that we, because of our modeling of how we make money, we are not able to start generating any reasonable amount of revenue anytime soon. And I believe ACTA also is asking for an extension of the CRB till September 1st at this point. So we have been advocating since September for an extension of the CRB. We knew back then that we were going to be having this problem, but please join us on a call and you will see all of the great things we talk about.
Yes, that's great. Okay, so we've run out of time. We said we wanted to keep to an hour, and we have, but just before we close, I wanted to just share a little story with you, because this just happened actually this morning. I was reminded of something, and in the mornings, I usually like to sit in my living room and have a little quiet time to start my day. And I back onto a wooded lot, and my windows face the woods. And so as I was sitting there looking out the window, I can see when if it's still dark out or it's getting lighter, the trees outside, there's a lot of elm trees and maple and oak. And those trees in the wintertime, they look very bleak when it's dark out. And you can see the shape of the trees, they're very gnarly. The branches look really gnarly. It looks a little bit eerie, and it looks really somber and dark and gloomy. And as I was sitting there, of course, the sun came up, and this morning it was really a beautiful sunrise, and the sky starts to glow. And the other day, actually, as the sun came up, there was snow still on the branches from a snowfall that we'd had, and the snow started glistening as the sun was shining through the branches. And those same branches that looked really gloomy and scary and dark looking, all of a sudden became like really beautiful and shimmering, and the glow from the orange of the sun was just really spectacular. And I just was reminded that it's all in our perspective and how we see things. And just as we can look at one problem and this whole problem of what COVID has done to our industry and to our businesses, we can see very easily all the really negative, dark things in that. And yet, if we can try to shift our focus to find some positive things, the sun is going to come out, because we know it is going to. And we have more months behind us of the pandemic than we have in front of us. I'm really confident of that. So we can start looking at our businesses with real positivity and see the good things and move forward. And we can, instead of just being people and business people who get through it, we can actually become overcomers and conquerors. We can conquer this. And so we really want to leave you with that thought that it is a huge mindset, but sometimes we have to be willing to make that mindset shift and to look at things differently.
Can I add something to that,
Yeah.
Judith, if you don't mind? I think there's also that's so, it's all in the way you look at it. And I think in understanding that there are people right now who are ready and okay to travel, and there's some who aren't. And there are travel advisors who are comfortable selling travel, and there's some who aren't. And it's just being kind to where people
Yes.
are on that spectrum and how they see it. And remember that we're fighting a virus, not each other. And
Yes.
so we're all going to look differently at it, and just kind of carry forward with a bit of kindness on that.
That is a really, really great thought to end on. And Nancy, thank you for being that reminder throughout this whole call. Be both, be human and be kind.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, let's just leave you with that thought and end on a positive note. So thanks so much to our special guest, Tannis, for joining
Thank
us.
you.
And Travel with Tannis is her podcast, so you can find that on iTunes. And
iTunes, Spotify, and Google. Yeah. Or on
Awesome.
Instagram, you can find me at Travel with Tannis.